Hello and welcome. Today in this video, we are going to be discussing this rather complex story. It's not a very long story, but it's definitely a complex story, which is called The Journey to the End of the Earth. Okay, now this is written by Tishani Doshi, whose photograph you see on the screen. She says that she went from Madras, that is Chennai. So she is based in South India. And this is basically the story of an expedition to Antarctica and how fascinating that particular place is. And I have put together some photographs for you to generally be able to imagine all this while you are reading this story. You know, these are pictures from Antarctica. And excuse me, I'm running a cold. The belief is that world's geological history is trapped in Antarctica, and I will tell you what exactly it means while we are discussing the story. So I just want you to kind of note down with the help of these photographs the broad points that we are going to be discussing in this particular story, right? You see a whole lot of penguins out there. Then you are also talking about this particular ship, okay, called Academic Shokolaski, okay, which was actually trapped in Antarctica, and the people out there were actually, they had to be rescued. So these are some of the pictures from that place of that time. Okay, so why I'm showing you these pictures is because I want you to be able to keep this in mind so that your understanding of the story, I want you to be mentally transported to that completely icy continent called Antarctica, so that your understanding can be that much better. And they speak about the students on ice program in the latter half of the story, right? This is basically all the students from different parts who were there as part of this particular program in order to understand Antarctica, in order to understand climate change that much better. And there is also, just remember this phytoplankton, because again, we will be talking about this in the later half of this particular story. So these are some of the pictures I wanted to show to you. So now let's get started with the chapter itself. I'll go through the entire chapter, keep explaining the points. There are a lot of technical terms that you would need to know and remember. And of course, the question and answers are there for you to be able to navigate that space pretty easily. Okay, so let's get started with the chapter. Okay, so now we are on Journey to the End of the Earth, written by Tishani Doshi. She says, early this year, I found myself aboard a Russian research vessel, the Academic Shokolaski. Okay. You need to know the name of the ship. Okay. The exact spelling. This belonged to Russia, heading towards the coldest, the driest, and the windiest continent in the world, which is Antarctica. My journey began 13.09 degrees north of the equator. So she's giving all the geographical indicators in Madras, that is Chennai, and involved crossing 9 time zones. These are facts that you need to remember. 9 time zones, that is, the time kept changing as she moved southwards from Chennai. 6 checkpoints where she needed to be checked. The travelers needed to be checked. 3 bodies of water, and at least as many ecospheres. So you see the entire time zones. So you are moving really further down south. So that's what they traveled as part of this particular expedition. By the time I actually set foot on the Antarctic continent, that is, by the time they landed in Antarctica, she had been traveling over 100 hours. Please remember this statistic, in combination of a car, an aeroplane, and a ship. So my first emotion on facing Antarctica's expansive means wide. Expansive means wide landscape and uninterrupted blue horizon was relief. You know, that she felt relieved. Finally, I have come here. Followed up with an immediate and profound wonder. Yani ki, you know, profound means something which is really amazing. You are really taken by surprise, right? Wonder and its immensity, that wherever you see, you see only ice, and nothing else, right? Um, at There could have been a time when India and Antarctica were part of the same landmass. Now, of course, she had to cross three bodies of water. Hmm? But there was a time when India and Antarctica were part of the same landmass. They were kind of joined together. 650 million years ago, and that's the kind of time that we are talking about. A giant amalgamated southern supercontinent called the Gondwana, please remember this name, did indeed exist, centered roughly around the present day Antarctica. So 650 million years ago, there was this giant supercontinent in the southern part of Earth, which was called Gondwana, and that was centered around Antarctica. But things were quite different. So basically, Tishani Doshi ka कहने का मतलब ये है that, the Earth's present, past, and future are all linked to Antarctica. You need to know about Antarctica in order to know what really happened and why are we where we are right now. Okay. And because entire geological history of the world is trapped in Antarctica. So she says the humans had not arrived yet. The climate was actually much warmer, not cold like it is now in Antarctica. And it hosted a whole lot of flora and fauna, that is flowers and also animal life. For 500 million years, Gondwana thrived, but around the time when the dinosaurs were wiped out, that is out of 650, 500 million years that they actually thrived. But Gondwana survived. But around the time when dinosaurs actually disappeared, and then the age of the mammals, including human beings, started, the landmass was forced to separate into countries. That India and Antarctica became separate continents, shaping the globe and that's how we know the globe as on today. Okay, so that's what she's talking about. To visit Antarctica now is to be part of that history. So, it's not just about geology. It is not just about geology, but she says it's also about history. That, this was the history, and that's what we need to be aware of. And that's why you need to go to Antarctica to be part of that history, to get a grasp of where we have come from and where we could possibly be heading. This is the past and this is the future. It is to understand the significance of Cordilleran folds and Precambrian granite shields. What does this mean? This Cordilleran folds means the system of mountain ranges consisting of parallel chains. This is the technical definition. As I said, there are a whole lot of technical terms which have been used in this particular chapter. So आपको exact technical definition जानना जरूरी है. You need to know the exact technical definition. So this is the system of mountain ranges, various mountains consisting of parallel chains. So they are kind of joined together. Precambrian granite shields is a reference to the exposed part, the part which is visible of ancient geological core of North America, mainly Canada. So Canada, which is part of North America, which is the exposed part, that is the Precambrian shield. These are typical geological terms which have been used. Ozone and carbon, the ozone layer, the carbon, evolution and extinction. So to know all this, to know all these things, the Cordilleran folds, the Precambrian granite shields, the ozone and carbon, the evolution and extinction, you need to be in Antarctica, according to the author. When you think about all that can happen in a million years, it can get pretty mind-boggling. Million years, can you even imagine? I mean, the thought doesn't go, which is why I showed you the pictures, so that you are mentally transported into a different place, which is why I'm not even putting my photograph out here. I want you to think only about Antarctica and nothing else right now. So I'm doing it very deliberately. I want you to be mentally transported to the icy continent of Antarctica. So when you think about all that can happen in a million years, it can get very mind-boggling. You can't imagine. It's very difficult to imagine the world could have been like that. Just imagine India and Antarctica were together. Just imagine what India's weather and climate could possibly have been as a result. So imagine India pushing northwards, and then India and Antarctica has separated. So India has pushed northwards, right? Jamming against Asia, Russia, Mongolia, and it has jammed against that to buckle its crust and form the Himalayas, right? South America has drifted off to join North America. That's how different continents have been formed, opening up the Drake Passage. Now, Drake Passage, again, a geological term, geographical term, it is a body of water between the southern part of South America and the South Shetland Islands of Antarctica. So it's a body of water which separates southern part of South America, where you have Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Peru, etc., and the South Shetland Islands of Antarctica. And this is named after a British explorer called Francis Drake, and it is considered one of the most dangerous and treacherous passages. Okay, so I'm giving you all the different technical, geological, and geographical terms so that it's easy for you to understand. And it to create a cold circumpolar current, keeping Antarctica frigid, that is cold, desolate, yani ki there is no human life out there, and at the bottom of the world, right? So that's what has been created as a result of the different movement of the different continents. Okay. For a sun-worshipping South Indian like myself, because she's from Madras, right, where it is extremely hot. For those of you from Chennai who you would know that Chennai has an extremely hot and humid. The joke goes that Chennai has only two weathers. Okay, you have the monsoon for 2 months and you have the summer. So 10 months of summer and November and December of the monsoon, right? There is no winter in Chennai. 2 weeks in a place where 90% of the Earth's total ice volumes are stored is a chilling prospect, literally speaking, right? Because you come from a place which is so hot, and you go to a place which has 90% of the Earth's total ice volume, not just for circulatory but and metabolic functions. Is a chilling prospect. She's trying to play on the word chilling prospect. That is for circulatory. Just imagine if you have only ice and ice and ice and nothing else. But even for imagination, she says it's like walking into a giant ping pong ball devoid of any human markers. Because, when you are in a city, you have roads which turn left and right, right? You have gardens. But here you have nothing of the sort. You have no human markers. You don't know where to turn, because 360 degrees, it's only ice and nothing else, as you saw in those photographs. So now you understand why I showed you the photographs right at the beginning. No trees, no billboards, no buildings. You lose all earthly sense of perspective. You don't know, right looks the same as left, back looks the same as front, 360 degrees, right? There's no perspective. And there is no sense of time. The visual scale ranges from the microscopic to the mighty. You have the small things, you have the big things, the midges and the mites. The midge is a small two-winged fly, maki. Not exactly like a maki. Fly means a maki, so I'm just trying to relate it to that. Mites is a kind of a parasite. Okay, to blue whales, which are large, an iceberg as big as countries. The largest recorded in Antarctica was the size of Belgium, which is in Europe. Brussels, the capital of Belgium. That is when you come from London, you cross River Thames, you come into Belgium, which is the other side of Europe. Days go on and on and on in surreal, which is surreal means almost like, unimaginable and very strange. 24-hour austral summer light. Austral means relating to the southern hemisphere. You use the word austral. And an ubiquitous silence means found everywhere. Ubiquitous means which is found everywhere. Interrupted only by the, so please know all these word meanings which I am telling you about. Okay. Interrupted only by the occasional avalanche, Avalanche is, when there is, there is a kind of crash of ice and snow, and or carving ice sheet consecrates the place. Consecrate almost being used in a sense of worship. Okay. It's an immersion that will force you to place yourself in the context of the Earth's geological history. And for humans, the prognosis means the prediction about the future is not very good. So she says, as she says, right, that if you want to understand the geological history of the world, of Earth, you need to be in Antarctica, because the world's geological history is trapped in Antarctica. And what is geology? Since I'm using the word geology again and again, आप में से कोई बोलेगा, अरे geology क्या होता है भाई भाई, ये तो समझा दो. Geology is the study of rocks. Okay. So let's now talk about the human impact. Human civilizations have been around for a paltry 12,000 years. We talked about 650 million years, but now we are talking about human civilization, which has been only there for 12,000 years. Barely a few seconds on the geological clock. So if you are looking at the entire geological history and look at it like a clock, this is just a minute few seconds. In that short amount of time, हम इतने ही साल ही रहे हैं, लेकिन उस time में ही we have managed to create quite a ruckus and create quite a bit of damage out here. Okay. Kafi uthal puthal we have created, etching our dominance over nature with our villages, towns, cities, mega cities. The rapid increase of human populations has left us battling with other species for limited resources. Because the resources are limited, we are at war with other species. Okay. And the unmitigated means, continuous, without stop burning of fossil fuels has now created a blanket of carbon dioxide around the world. So we are polluting the world. We are bringing about climate change, and we don't realize it. We are very selfish. Human beings are an extremely selfish race, which is slowly but surely increasing the average global temperature, which is why you have rains at unusual times. You have very hot summers. You have very cold winters because of climate change, because of what we are doing to the world. So now she talks about this important topic called climate change. She says climate change is one of the hotly discussed, debated, contested environment debates of our time. 1 minute. Will the West Antarctic ice sheet melt entirely? Will the Gulf Stream ocean be disrupted? So she's raising questions, right? Because she has been there and she's kind of finding these as important questions, right? Will it be the end of the world as we know it? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, she says Antarctica is a crucial element in this debate. In this debate about climate change, Antarctica is an extremely important point. Not just because it's the only place in the world which has never sustained human population. Humans cannot, though Earth stations are there. Scientists live there to study, and therefore remains relatively pristine. Pristine means completely pure in this respect. But more importantly, because it holds in its ice cores 500,000-year-old carbon records trapped in its layers of ice. If we want to study and examine the Earth's past, present and future, Antarctica is a place to be. इसके ऊपर question and answers आ सकते हैं, जो कि मैंने लिख के रखे हैं. Please go and have a look. Pristine, as I said, it means completely pure. So this is very important. So she says that if we want to study and examine the Earth's past, present, and the future, Bhut Kal, Vartaman Kal, Bhavishya Kal, you need to go to Antarctica, my friends. So that's what she says. Now she talks about the Students of Ice on Ice program, about which the photograph I showed you right at the beginning. The program I was working with on Shokolaski aims to do exactly this by taking high school students to the ends of the world and providing. So as part of this particular program, students are taken to these kind of places. Just imagine. Oh God, I was thinking while I was reading the story and preparing notes, how lucky it would have been. I mean, all those people to go and see this absolutely marvelous wonder to the ends of the world and providing them with inspiring educational opportunities which will help them foster a new understanding and respect for our planet. That the planet is extremely, see, the planet is not something which needs to be abused. The planet is extremely fragile. We need to take care, which is why we talk about greening the planet, planting trees, planting saplings. We need to take care for the future generations. Otherwise, the future generations will say, these people, they abuse the planet, selfish people, and look at what they have given us. Do you want our future generations to say that? Which is why I think this particular story in your book is extremely important. So the Students on Ice program has been in operation for 6 years now, headed by Canadian person called Jeff Green, who got tired of carting celebrities. So he initially used to take celebrities. Celebrities hote na, then they will tweet, they'll put it on social media, so it will get some recognition. He said, but faida nahi hai usse. Rich curiosity seekers, people who would be curious, who would only give back in a limited way. So he's thought that taking students like you is the future, is kind of safeguarding the future. He offers the future generation of policy makers, because some of them will go on to become bureaucrats, politicians, technocrats. That will give them a life-changing experience at an age when they are ready to absorb, learn, and most importantly, act. Because children are idealistic. We all are at that age of 15, 16, 17, 18. We want to change the world. So that is an impressionable age. So which is why he decided, instead of celebrities, that he will take students. Okay, so the focus was on creating a more aware and enlightened generation next. Okay. The reason the program has been so successful is because it is impossible to go anywhere near the South Pole and not be affected by it. It is easy to be blast. Blast means unimpressed. Okay. About polar ice caps melting while sitting in the comfort zone of our respective latitude and longitude. If I'm sitting in Madras, I'm thinking, yeah, the North Pole is melting, man. You don't have an impact unless you go and see it yourself, feel it yourself. And that was the entire idea of the Students on Ice program. But when you can visibly see glaciers retreating, melting, and ice shelves collapsing, you begin to realize that the threat of global warming is indeed very, very real. So Antarctica, because of a simple ecosystem and lack of biodiversity, because you don't have vegetation out there, is a perfect place to study how little changes in the environment can have big repercussions. Okay. Big repercussions means big impact. Take the microscopic phytoplankton, whose photograph I showed you right at the beginning. Those grasses of the sea that nourish and sustain the entire southern ocean's food chain. Can you imagine? Those little grasses are the ones which sustain, which keep alive the entire food chain of the entire southern ocean. These single-celled plants use the sun's energy, solar energy, to assimilate carbon and synthesize organic compounds in that wondrous and most important of processes called photosynthesis, which of course you children know about. Scientists warn that a further depletion, agar ozone layer or deplete hota hai, to let me just explain. See, they are grasses of the sea that nourish and sustain the entire southern sea's food chain. It needs sunlight to process the carbon dioxide. They were affected by slight changes in temperature. So Doshi says that phytoplankton is like a metaphor for existence. It symbolizes existence, that if you take care of the small things, the big things will automatically fall in place. If you take care of the phytoplankton, ensure that it does not die, it will automatically take care of the big things. So she says that it affects a small depletion in the ozone layer will affect the activities of the phytoplankton, which in turn will affect the lives of all the marine animals like seals, like penguins, and the birds, and the global carbon cycle. We think, अरे अंटार्कटिका बहुत दूर है, उससे हमको यहाँ पे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? अरे फर्क पड़ेगा तुम्हारी जनरेशन में नहीं पड़ेगा, बट आगे की जनरेशन में जरूर पड़ेगा. In the parable, parable is like a story, okay, of the phytoplankton, there is a great metaphor for existence. Take care of the small things like the phytoplankton, and the big things will fall into place. And finally, they talk about how they were rescued. My Antarctic experience was full of such epiphanies. Epiphanies is a moment of great revelation or a moment of great realization. Okay. But the best occurred just short of the Antarctic Circle at 65.55 degrees south. Shokaleski had managed to wedge itself. It got trapped. It got stuck into a thick white stretch of ice between the peninsula and the Tadpole Island, which was preventing us from going any further. So it got stuck. The captain decided we were going to turn around and head back north. But before we did, we were all instructed to climb down. Do you remember I showed you the photograph of people all climbing, walking with the ship in the background? Okay. Doubt ho to go back and see that photograph. We were all instructed to climb down the gangplank, okay, from the ship and walk on the ocean. So just imagine you're walking on the icy ocean. So there we were, all 52 of us, 52 people were there as part of that program, kitted out in Gore-Tex and glares, which is like the winter clothing, walking on a stark whiteness. Stark means, very visibly, bare whiteness that seemed to spread out forever. Underneath our feet was a meter thick ice pack, and underneath that 180 meters of living, breathing salt water. How wonderful. Can you imagine how it would be? Just imagine the kind of experience that these people who are part of those 52 people who are part of that Students on Ice program. In the periphery, crab eater seals were stretching and sunning themselves on ice floes, much like stray dogs will do under the shade of a banyan tree, right? So it's almost like, the seals were there just like stray dogs would be there in any town of India. It was nothing short of a revelation. Everything does indeed connect. So life is different there, but, she's able to make the connections. 9 time zones, 6 checkpoints, 3 bodies of water, and many ecospheres later, I was still wondering about the beauty of balance in play on our planet when she's returned to Madras. How would it be if Antarctica were to become the warm place that it once used to be? Now it's cold, but how would it be if it became a hot place again? Will we be around to see it, or would we have gone the way of the dinosaurs, the mammoths, and the woolly rhinos? Who is to say? Kaun keh sakta hai? But after spending 2 weeks with a bunch of teenagers like you students who still have the idealism to save the world, all I can say is that a lot can happen in a million years, but what a difference a day makes, right? So she's talked about this wonderful experience that she has had in Antarctica. I hope you understood the story. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please go and look at the photographs again so that you can relate to it even better now after having gone through the story. Please also read all the notes and the question and answers so that you are able to tackle anything that comes from this story. Okay. Thank you very much. Tata. Bye-bye.